A quick, fast introduction into Sitecore Send. Some of you might remember this guy, Pete Navarra. This was 2018, SUGCON and Symposium. He gave an amazing show on AXM with live demos and such, but he had a bit more time than I do. And anyway, this seems like ancient history. We have this now, Send. Call it Sitecore Send at the moment, but it's mainly still Send. And if you create your account and you log in, you get a dashboard a bit like this. Once you've sent your first campaign, that you see at least some data. And what can we do here? First of all, we have our audience. So we have email lists. We can have segments on that. Of course, we want to grow our audience. So we can build forms. We can build landing pages. Now we can start sending campaigns. We have some automation in there. And of course, we want reporting on all of that. Let's start in the beginning. We'll create our first email list. To do that, we start simple. We have to give it a name. We have some settings. The opt-in is quite important, I guess. You get some fields out of the box, where your email is, of course, mandatory. And then you can start adding custom fields. Can be quite some types. You can have text, date, can be a number, or even select lists. Okay, our email list is actually almost ready. We can already start importing users. You can do this in bulk if you have existing lists, or maybe you have a CSV file somewhere there with some members. You can already import them. So you can see there are other bulk actions available. You can do this now, you can do this later as well. And then our email list is ready. We get it in our overview. And once you get more email lists, your overview will get bigger. You can search, you can filter, you can go to the details, change the settings, and so on, and see some reporting. So we have our email list. Now let's make a segment. To do that, we can start from a template. If that fits your needs or you need a quick start, that's an option. You can also go completely from scratch. You give your segment a name. You define how the rules should be interpreted. So that's and or between the rules, and then you start defining the rules. So you need at least one, of course. You can use any field from your members. You can use a few properties. You can then add more rules if it has to be more complex, and at any time you will see how many members actually fit this segment, and you can even preview them. Okay, we have our email list, we have some segments. Now let's grow this audience, and the first way to do that is using forms. Can I create a form? First thing you need to do is select the type of form. There are 6 that you can choose from. You pick any. And then you can also define, well, depending on which you chose, of course, otherwise this doesn't always make much sense, but you can choose, okay, when does it appear? When somebody enters a page, when somebody leaves a page, you have quite some properties here. And then you come to the juicy part. You can start editing your form, making it visibly appealing. This is the editor. What do we have here? First of all, a template library. I actually kind of skipped this part because that's the first thing you do. You enter the template library, you select something, and then you start changing all that, editing that to the form as you want. You have preview, including a few mobile views. You have a navigation with all your elements, where you can edit really a lot of properties, margins, and all that kind of things. And of course, you can add properties to your form with just drag and drop. It's actually a pretty easy editor. And you can switch between desktop and mobile within the editor itself as well. Of course, you can save your form, but what's nice and important, you can also save it as a template. So you can extend your own template library, and then you can reuse your form, or maybe just make a few changes and you have a new form. Okay, our form is ready. again, we see a very consistent, very similar overview of all our forms. And again, we can do the same stuff. We can view the details, change them, we can filter and search on them if we would really have a lot, and we see some reporting. As I mentioned, we also have landing pages. And I'm going to take this really quickly because it's actually almost exactly the same. So the editor looks the same, the overview looks the same, you just get a few different elements because they make more sense on landing pages and not on forms. So very consistent, which makes it also very easy for people to work with. So I think we're ready to start sending mails. So we have our email list, we have our forms, we can grow the audience. Let's just start spamming them. To create a campaign, we have a few options, but let's just go for a simple regular one. First step is defining, okay, who are we going to send the mails to? So we get our email list and we get our segments and we can decide, okay, these people are going to get a mail from me. For my design, I can actually import. Can be just HTML that I put in here if I want to go really custom. But we can again use kind of the same editor. This is the template library for the campaigns. As you can see, there are really a lot. But you can also go completely from scratch. So you build your email. I'm always sending cats, by the way. You can again, same principles. You can switch between desktop and mobile. You have a template library, we just saw that. You have the preview, including the mobile views. You can send a test mail. I guess people using AXM are acquainted to that. You have all your elements. You also have some structure elements. Again, edit the properties, add the stuff, just drag and drop it on there. Saving, and again, saving as a template. You can reuse this later with maybe a few adjustments. This is a screen of the rich text editor. Not because I really wanted to show you a rich text editor. I guess you all know rich text editors, and I mean, it's just a normal rich text editor. But it also has some personalization tags. And it's probably pretty common. Okay, you can use the name, you can use the fields and so on of a member in your mail. You can have a few properties of your mailing list that you can use. But there is one that's actually pretty important. You have to add an unsubscribe link. If you don't, you will get a warning from Musen saying, hey, you don't have an unsubscribe link, I will add it for you. You don't want that because that looks ugly. So just add an unsubscribe link yourself. So, okay, I made my mail. I can save this as a template so that I can reuse it later. And, well, I can imagine that this would be appealing to people who like cats. But maybe not everyone does, I imagine. So maybe I also had a segment of people who really like actually soccer. So maybe I would want to send this to them. I can reuse it. And if you don't know what this is, just ask any Hungarian, they should know. We can also, if we don't have segments like that, we can do A/B testing. We can do A/B testing on the subject or on the design. So we can just change the picture or maybe change the whole mail, but I don't think that would make sense for A/B testing. Okay, we've been sending mails now. Now let's see some automation. And again, just as with the other stuff, we have some templates that we can start from. But, and I think for automations, maybe this will be, for most cases, we'll just make them from scratch. First step, create a trigger, select a trigger. Quite a lot of them. Some are really specific and probably not useful in well, your case. But some are also really generic and open, like, okay, a custom field changed. I think any developer can do anything with that. So we can get people into our automations. And then we get to the actions. First type of actions are the conditional ones. So we can split our flow, we can have if-else constructions, and so on. And then we get to the real actions. And yeah, out of the box we get some that are related to mail, so we can subscribe people, we can send them mails, we can even send a message to Slack. And But if you want to do custom stuff, you can just post to a webhook. So again, actually, if you can post to a webhook, we can do anything. Then we get something like this. So this is just done with drag and drop. You put it on there. So we start with a trigger. Then we have a filter, like, okay, we just check one of our custom fields, whether this value is yes, no, compared to what we are looking for. We just split the flow maybe 50-50. Looks like a bit an A/B test then. And once people start really flowing through those automations, you will see you get even reporting within this editing environment. So you will actually see, okay, at this step, so many people went through it, that's this much percentage, and so on. Which brings us to reporting. So again, yeah, we saw on email lists, forms, landing pages, the automations, and of course the campaigns, which I think is probably most important, and that's also the basis for the reporting section. That's mainly for the campaign reports. So you get your overview there of reports, you can go to the details. Now, I don't like spamming people, so my numbers are really low. I thought, yeah, for a 15-minute session, I don't need to start spamming a lot of people. But you get an idea, okay, so you can have all the reports you want from your campaigns. And if these pages don't suit you, you can create your own. So you can create what they call custom reports, which actually means you get a lot of widgets and you can just select them and create your own page with your own widgets on there, and then have all the reports that you want on one place. There is a bit more. They have quite some integrations out of the box, like for instance Salesforce. But you might notice there's no Sitecore on here yet, maybe. I don't know. I don't work for Sitecore. There is some documentation on the Sitecore site of what you can already do, so you can embed the tracker from Send. Of course, you can embed your forms. You can identify visitors between Sitecore and Sitecore Send, so those things are all documented. But they also have an API, so you can do anything with the API. So any developer in the room here can actually integrate anything. They do have a blog with a lot of information. They have an academy with videos. And I don't know if there are any people here who actually will be sending emails, because for those guys, they even have a subject line tester. You just put the subject that you're thinking of sending, and they have an AI, and they will check if your subject is feasible, or maybe they will give you some recommendations like, okay, add this word or this word, and you will get better results. And there is already, like I mentioned, some documentation moving towards the Sitecore documentation that we're actually used to, so for the end users and the developers. So I think I've actually told you enough to get you started and to give you an idea what it can do. So now it's up to you if you're interested. Just go to moosend.com, create an account, you get a 30-day free trial. Some people even call this a free tier. It's not. There are just a few limitations, so you can only create one form and so on, but you can create a form, delete it, and create another one. So it does work, the free trial. If you get issues, they have a chat. It works. I tried it. They actually answered. And it was a good answer. They could help me. So all fine there. And if you have questions that you think I could answer, you can, I guess, always find me here. Or you find me on Slack, Twitter, and some people say that I live at Stack Exchange, so you can find me there as well. Just search for the cat. That's me. I don't know if we have time for questions here, but I would like to thank you for being here and thank all our sponsors for making this possible again.
Thank you, Gert.